what they're involved in is evil. Homosexuality is evil.
These people are not born like that. They just learn, and they can unlearn what they have learned.
Biscuit trip thrice.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. The two women joining me today have their backs to you for a reason. As you just saw in the video, the LGBTQ community in Uganda faces grave danger, which is why Kirabo and Mukisa have chosen to conceal their identities. These are not their real names, but rather pseudonyms that they have chosen for this summit. Their decision to join us today and share their story comes with great personal risks. Kirabo, Mukisa, I want to thank you both for your bravery in being here.
Thank you.
Mukisa, it wasn't long ago in this country that gay couples had very few rights and faced rampant discrimination. In some pockets of America, the anti-LGBTQ community still faces hatred. But there are others in this room who are lucky to intersect with thriving queer communities. The situation you both face in Uganda might seem very distant to them. Mukisa, tell us what dangers and discrimination does your community and individuals like you, especially women, face?
It's very challenging being LGBT and living in Uganda because it's illegal and it's unaccepted. Our government and the society looks at homosexuality as un-African, un-Christian, and it's against the tradition of the country. So each and every day it's a nightmare. We don't have freedom. You can never wake up and live life normally. We are discriminated everywhere we go, from the education sector to the health sector to the public. In schools, once the school administration discover that you're LGBT, they have a right to expel you, they have a right to punish you, they have a right to call police on you, and they never give you a chance to explain yourself. It doesn't matter whether it's true, it's a true allegation, but as long as they suspect that you're either gay or a lesbian or trans, they will definitely punish you, expel you from school. LGBT people have been discriminated in the health sector. We are given unfair treatment. If you go to a hospital to seek treatment, and then the doctors or the nurses find out that you're LGBT, they will ignore you. They will chase you away from the hospitals, and then they will tell you to go somewhere else where you can get treatment from, and those are few places. Yes, we have some friendly LGBT doctors, but sometimes they are not accessible. We've been violated, we've been harassed and arrested by the police. It doesn't matter how the police is going to arrest you. Someone can call police on you and just tell the police that, I think this person is a lesbian, I think this person is gay, and then police will just come to arrest you just because of that. So LGBT people have been arrested, not because there is a crime they have committed, but because someone will call the authorities that you're LGBT.
And Kirabo, there is this practice of publicly outing LGBTQ people by the media in Uganda, and you were one of them. You know, what happened to you?
In many cases, you can just get a phone call that, you know what, you are in the newspapers, that, you know, your names are there, your images are there. And sometimes if it is in the newspapers, we always rush to buy the newspaper to see what is at hand. I have been outed since 2016. That was the first time I was exposed in the newspaper as being lesbian.
And what happened that day?
That day, I just got a phone call from somebody that, you know what, you're in the newspapers. So I bought the newspaper, and then my name was listed. And then the person I was living with, the neighborhood I was actually living in, people had known who I was, people had known who I was dating. And then right there, the gossiping started. They started saying, this is the woman in the newspapers. I started being threatened. I started being harassed. And then also, besides that, in 2010, another list came out. And this time, we were about 100 suspected LGBTI persons that were listed. And still, my name was amongst. Because of this, many things have happened. My dream has always been to be a model from the time I was young. And because I had this opportunity to be a model, but because of the outings, I was stopped from having any gigs. I was told, you know what, Kirabo, don't come back to this modeling agency. We shall call you in case there is a gig. Weeks turned into months, months turned into years. That's how my modeling gig died, just like that.
And Mukisa, the police play such a big role in Uganda. In tabloid publish the photographs, and then the police further exploit them. Talk about this exploitation that they do.
The police works hand in hand with the media to expose LGBT people. Whenever there is a charge to do with LGBT, police always calls it hot cake. They call it hot cake because they know that once they call the media, it's going to sell all over the country. And they use LGBT because they are trying to run away from the problems that Uganda faces. Uganda is a poor country. We have a lot of problems. We don't have hospitals. There is a lot of unemployment, but they will run away from such problems to concentrate on LGBT issues because they know that that's what people are interested in. They want to change the minds of people so that they can run away from the real problems. Whenever the police arrest LGBT people, they'll call the media, they'll parade the LGBT people, they'll start taking photos forcefully, they'll force LGBT people to make false statements. If they are trans women that are being arrested, they'll force them to go in the cells of male, and then they'll tell the inmates to work on the trans women, to beat them, to harass them, and to teach them how to be men.
And Kirabo, you've experienced this brutality firsthand. What happened to you the day you and your fellow activists were arrested?
On many occasions, police has raided LGBTI meetings, workshops, events, to mention but a few. This raid started in 2012. That is when we had our very first Pride, and thanks to Kasha Nabagesera, the founder of Pride Uganda. So when this time it was arrested in 2012, it was raided in 2012, police told us that we were having a gay wedding, and some of our members were arrested. Then, because of this, we started having low-profile events, and in some years, everything was okay, until 2016, when we were raided again, and that was at a nightclub. There was a Pride event underway. Everything was okay until the police came in, sealed off the place, and this space had only one entry and one exit. When they sealed it off, we were all commanded to sit down, no phones, and there were so many trans women and trans men. Some of them were rushing to the restrooms to remove all their wigs, their shoes, their dresses, and these rude police officers were dragging them back, slapping them, pulling off their hair forcefully. Around that time, we all didn't know what to do. And then some officers were like, you know what, communicating with their colleagues, telling them these patrol cars will not be enough. Just bring lorries, because these people are so many. Around that time, as we were in that crowd, as we were seated, it's not that we were alone. We had our allies. We had our funders there. We had LGBTI-friendly people with us. And then the entire LGBTI, we were actually around 400 in the house.
And you've had an experience where a colleague of yours was trying to escape one of these raids, and his life was completely changed after that.
Yes. There was this gay man that night. Because he was in the closet, and because of the way the police was treating us, and because they told us to sit down, they were like, don't use your phones. And then they had called the media to come. And usually when the media comes, they take photographs of you forcefully. And since he was in the closet, he didn't want his family to find out. All he had to do, what we had as we were seated down, we had someone falling off the 6th floor. Actually, it was the last floor, falling off. And we all shouted. We thought he had died. But thank God he didn't. And because of that, because he fell off, one of the police guys communicated with a colleague and told them, you know what, we have an issue here. That's how they told us to vacate the building in 3 minutes. People left. Besides that, we were held hostage for 2 to 4 hours. People didn't know where their bags were. People didn't have shoes on. And imagine you are getting off the floor, the 6th floor, no shoes, you don't know where your bag is, and they are telling you, in 3 minutes, you have to vacate. We were just lucky and a bit happy that he didn't pass on. Reaching down, our human rights lawyers were there.
So, tell us, are you not afraid? Your colleagues are being arrested. You've had people who've been killed. Are you not afraid?
it's such a confusing situation. Sometimes we are afraid, and sometimes we have to stand strong. Sometimes we say if we get afraid, then who is going to stand for us? That's why we have to sacrifice a lot so that we can be able to speak out. Even if we go through a lot, we have a lot of challenges. We live in fear. We risk our lives to do the work we do. But we made a decision to stand strong and be able to fight for our rights in a country like Uganda, whereby someone can go to prison for life for being who they are.
And Mukisa, tell us what made you fall in love with Kirabo.
I met Kirabo at a social event in 2008. And the first time I laid my eyes on her, I thought she was beautiful. We had mutual friends, and after that day, we started going out with other friends. We exchanged numbers. We started texting each other every day, until one day when I asked her out on a date, and she said yes. We went on our first date, and ever since then, we became a couple.
And so you both have a life, you have a home, you have a dog, you have friends in the community. You know, what is life like? How do people treat you? How do you guys go out together?
It's very challenging. We've been in a relationship for 11 years now. Actually, this June, we'll be celebrating our 11th anniversary. We stayed together. We are 3 girls, me, her, and our dog.
She's a female.
And we go through a lot, of course. We have been threatened. We have been harassed by landlords. We have been evicted. We have moved from this house to another. We have relocated from one place to another. Just because the landlords don't believe that 2 women can stay together without a man in the house. All the time, the male neighbors would come and knock on our door, trying to have a pass at her. And when we don't give them attention, they'll start throwing insults at us, calling us names, calling us abasiyazi. Abasiyazi means homosexuals. One day we found writings on our door, and they were saying tukoye abasiyazi, which means we are fed up of homosexuals. At a house that we are living in, a landlord out of the blue came and chased us out of the house. And the landlord told us that because the neighbors are not okay with our behaviors, we have to move away from the house. Sometimes all that comes when we are unprepared, when we don't have any money to move to another house. It's very challenging that if they throw us out of the house, we have to look for where to stay as we think about the next move.
You know, we're almost out of time, but I want to round this up by saying that in the US last week, Chicago elected its first openly gay mayor, and yet in the same week, the Kingdom of Brunei has passed a law that invokes the death by stoning as a punishment for gay sex. And in so many countries, the LGBT community is hiding, trying desperately to stay alive. Tell our audience how they can help your community in Uganda.
First of all, we want to thank the world for standing with us through all this that we go through. The world can support us not only financially, but any support is welcome. We do take a risk to do the work we do, but we've received a lot of support from all over the world. We have our project called Rainbow Riots, where we use music and arts to advocate for our rights. Recently, we did a fundraising online to fundraise for the first LGBT culture center, which is yet to be opened anytime soon. And when the Minister of Essex in Uganda got to know about the center, he started throwing insults and then threats that he's going to arrest the people who are behind that. But we call upon the world and everyone to come through and support us, technically, financially. Any support is welcome.
Thank you, Mukisa and Kirabo, for being brave and for being here tonight.
Thank you.